We have Dr. Lindsay Pease, who's also a soil scientist at the University of Minnesota Crookston, and she's going to give us a research update on what she's been doing looking at nitrogen loss in drain tile fields. So I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay.
Great. Thanks, Melissa. Yeah, so Amit's presentation actually leads pretty well into mine for today. Again, I'm Lindsay Pease, and I am a soil scientist, and I work at the Northwest Research and Outreach Center over in Crookston. And while Amit's work has been going on over 3 years, I will kind of preface this by saying this is my first year collecting data as kind of part of this effort. So we don't have a lot of results today, but I'm just going to give you guys the really big broad overview of kind of what I'm looking at and what I'm hoping to achieve. And this is a really exciting year to start our nitrate evaluations. Sorry, let me get my screen on the right slide here, because it rained a lot this summer. This slide is showing monthly rainfall kind of throughout the year. From 2020 is kind of the blue bar that's right in front, whereas I showed the 2019 alongside of it, so you can get a kind of a picture in your mind of how rainfall this year was different than rainfall last year. Rainfall last year in 2019 was all about the fall, and that's kind of the gray bars that you see on the chart. And I also put this next to the 10-year average rainfall. So when you sort of average all these together, where does that come out? What would our sort of normal year be? But I do put that in quotes because because normal can be kind of deceptive, I think, especially when you're thinking about rainfall data. And the other way that we can sort of visualize the rainfall losses is really through pictures. So these images were just taken from around the Northwest Research and Outreach Center from between June and August, actually. So the latest picture, the wheat field where we discovered a prairie pothole, right, is from August, and we saw all sorts of effects from rainfall that kind of go beyond just nutrient management damage. I mean, this is water damage that we're seeing on these fields, and it was across crops too, like the picture where you have soil kind of wiping out a corner of soybeans. That's the big picture on the top left-hand corner of the screen. We also have a flooded out sugar beet plot that where water was collecting and wasn't quite getting to the drainage, the surface drainage. And then finally, we have corn yields. Our corn yields were actually also really hurt by all of this rainfall. Normally, corn can be a little bit more resilient to some of this rain, but I'd say none of the crops at the Research and Outreach Center ended up sort of unscathed from all of this heavy rainfall during the growing season. And what we know from Amit's presentation, again, I said this is a good lead up to mine. Nitrogen is really like to stay put. It's rapidly changing forms. It's readily moving into air or into water. And the soil moisture content, how wet is that soil? How happy are the microbes, with their environment? All of those things are really primary drivers for how nitrate shifts in the environment. So that's kind of the main kind of thrust of this work, is to really focus on that rainfall piece and start thinking about how the rainfall is influencing the nitrate to shift into the water. And then on top of that, how tile drainage specifically is moving that nitrate out of the field. So we know that nitrogen leaches, specifically nitrate leaches with tile drainage water, but you know, but there are still always a lot of questions, about how much are we actually losing? Is that is that a soil fertility relevant amount? Or is it just kind of a water quality concern, the amount that we're losing? So those are the questions that I'd like to answer. And we did a lot of data collection this summer, and of course this summer, as you all know, and this year has been unlike any other. So, but this picture just is showing us out in the field collecting some water samples. This is actually one of our research sites. It's on at the research station in Crookston, and I just have Heidi Breitmeyer out there collecting water samples along with our special assistant who was with us a lot this summer. That's my corgi, and she was a really great partner to have out in the field. So these are the primary results that we have for nitrate concentration at this time. We really only have the results up through July analyzed so far, and that's due to kind of restrictions that we have by the state of Minnesota on how many people can be in our lab at a time, and just kind of those challenges. But what we have here is you can really see those concentrations of nitrogen increasing in both our tile water and our surface runoff kind of from May into June, and the highest being in July. And I think that really tracks pretty well with what we were seeing in terms of our rainfall amount. You can see, just bringing us back to that rainfall graph, you can see the rainfall really increasing in those 3 months too, and the concentrations do follow that. And I also put the concentrations that we saw in surface runoff. We were monitoring surface runoff on our tile drained field at the research center along with tile drainage. And we were seeing kind of a similar increase actually in concentration for the surface runoff compared to tile drainage, but by kind of a lesser amount. And I will say these nitrogen concentrations are not high. These are, I think, fairly low to kind of low for what we would expect, low to average for what we would expect, I should say. And we do have data from multiple farms kind of included in this aggregate set of what we've analyzed so far. I'll draw your attention kind of to 10 parts per million. That's the drinking water standard. So we want to make sure that so once water treatment plants send that water to people's tap, they want to stay below that 10 parts per million. And I don't think it'll come as a surprise to you to know that really on average, we were well below that standard. I don't think any of those medians, even during our really heavy rainfall periods, were approaching that. So that's just kind of something that's kind of nice to know, put in your back pocket. A lot of you have heard of fall nitrate restrictions in southern Minnesota, but kind of our nitrate concentrations do look to be lower, just kind of from this snapshot view. So I would say that that exemption that we have in Northwest Minnesota seems to be holding up, which is always what we like to see. And what's next? I think I kind of alluded to this a little bit during my talk. We're really going to keep going with that laboratory analysis. I had hoped to have a lot more to show you today by the time we got to December, but that just didn't work out this year. But we're going to keep working on it, and we're going to start looking a little bit more at pairing those concentrations data with specific rainfall patterns, and also on our site where we are monitoring tile drain flow along with the concentrations, really starting to pick out those patterns and quantifying, how much nitrogen is being lost in tile drainage discharge itself, and really relating that back to, you know, pounds of nitrogen compared to what you're applying and what you're losing. That's kind of our big picture objective. But we are going to keep going with this, and this certainly will not be the last you hear from me on this topic. And I just wanted to kind of, as I wrap up here, give a quick shout out to my team. I had a really hardworking team of, you know, 3 grad students were helping me, 1 undergrad student, really primarily through the summer, and kind of trying to get all this work done. And this is soil sampling, but these were the pictures I had of the whole team mostly together. Yeah, and like I said, these guys are doing a lot of work behind the scenes, even as we speak. Well, maybe not quite yet. It's a little early for them to be working, but yeah, they're doing all the work behind the scenes to help bring this data, and stay tuned for more information. And with that, I think if there are any questions, I can take those questions now.
Okay. Thank you, Lindsay. That was an excellent presentation, and thanks for jumping on live for our virtual Prairie Drains Conference this year.